I'm just going to jump right into this story. Usually I like giving you guys an introduction, like kind of a walk into it, but we're just starting with this Bible story because there's so much to say. This story is broken up into two parts. You got the build-up, and you got the main story. Now, when this story is frequently preached, it's the build-up that gets most of the attention. The kind of like background. Jesus is out. It's the first chapter of John, and Jesus is just starting to get disciples. Philip goes and gets a couple of these disciples right off the bat, and he grabs Nathanael. And Nathanael, this little drama between Philip and Nathanael is iconic. It is so, for every Christian who put the disciples and apostles on a pedestal, read this story. Because the real truth of the scripture is that they are not on pedestals. These pillars of faith are incredibly human. Because what is more human? You heard it in my tone of voice, and some of you got the joke. Philip comes up to Nathanael and says, "We found him. We found the Messiah. It's Jesus, son of Joseph. He's from Nazareth." And Nathanael's reaction is, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Now, I don't know anybody particularly from Nazareth, but I've had that attitude. I think that's about as human as it gets to be like, "You're telling me something good is coming from over there? Nah." No one from upcountry, no one from that part of the world, not from that side of the tracks, that city. No. And no, maybe I haven't been in Golden Valley long enough to know where our rivals are. But I have known where it's like, I'll speak of a different church, not us. A church I happen to be aware of. But not this church. I'm not lying. Somebody ends up saying, "We're doing a missions trip. We have to do, the speaker is coming from St. Paul." And someone went, "Ew." I know. We all, it's so human. And that reaction, like, to not, and this is where we get to kind of how the gospel writer in John, and get me started about the different gospel writers. You know it's John. You know you're talking about the gospel writer of John if vision and being able to see is a big deal. Light and darkness as metaphors, as background descriptions of the story are huge in the Gospel of John. Nathanael does not see Jesus. Why? Because he's prejudiced against Nazareth. Can't see it. And frankly, this passage, the number of pastors who will stop there. I totally get it, because this is so human, and man, does that preach. How often have I judged somebody because of who they voted for, the clothes they wear, the kind of tattoo, not that they have tattoos, but the kind of tattoo, that says a lot more about a person. The type of shoes they're wearing. Like, that can't, if that person who's betrayed me, who I think is a bad person, they couldn't possibly have a good idea. That person who thinks differently than me couldn't possibly have a good idea. That person who I have a vendetta against. And to say that this is even relevant to Jesus, the Son of God, somebody who is goodness made flesh, someone had a hard time getting past their regional differences. And the only way to get past it is the testimony that still resides for all of us today. Come and see. Those of you who've been in Spirit of Hope for my tenure here, one of the best compliments one of you gave me was, "You have a lot of friends." I got told that because of the stream of my actual personal friends who have come to visit Spirit of Hope. Because my actual personal friends are not church people. The people who I spend most of my off time with really find it fun that they hang out with a pastor. And y'all are the first church I've said, "Come and see." Like, most of my friends aren't willing to say, most churches, when it comes to LGBTQ inclusion, when it comes to kind of justice issues, they're just not going to be there. I'm like, come and see. And maybe I'm wrong for you. Maybe you don't know, but come and see. Maybe it could be. See why that first buildup of that story of Nathanael is so good? Because it just speaks to us. It really does. And I was about to write a whole sermon just on that part. Because, man, not what good could come out of Nazareth. But the more I sat with it, I like, every once in a while, I want to give the hard stuff. And this second passage, the second half of the story, can be a little hard. Not socially hard. It's not how we like stories given to us. So, Nathanael is being walked by Philip up to Jesus. There's Jesus. Jesus sees Nathanael, and it's his first meeting, their first eye-to-eye contact. Jesus sees him coming and goes, "Look at you. Great guy. This is a holy person from Israel, son of a..." And Nathanael, "How do you know me, man? Who are you? No. Where did you know me?" Because if you meet someone and their first words to you are, "Clearly in you there is no deceit." Inside you, like I can see it. I can just see it. And where do you know me? My initial reaction is, "You don't know me." Jesus' response is, "I saw you under the fig tree." And then Nathanael's response to being told that Jesus saw him under the fig tree is, "You're the Messiah. You're the Son of God." This is where I really want to keep you, but I might lose you. If that's the turning point for Nathanael, he still doesn't know Jesus is the Messiah when he sees Jesus. Jesus speaks to him in the first thing, says he's a good man. That doesn't convert Nathanael. What converts Nathanael is Jesus' observation of Nathanael at the fig tree. And that converts him. That changes his mind. That opens his eyes, and he sees Jesus for who he is. Which begs the question, why does sitting under a fig tree matter? Just on the surface level of this doesn't feel like a miracle, right? This isn't Jesus turning water into wine. Best miracle ever. This is not Jesus raising the dead. Wow. This is not Jesus with the feeding of the 5 fish. This is, "I saw you earlier today." Reading it feels a little bit more like a carnival prank. And you don't want to say that of Jesus. You don't want to think Jesus is like P.T. Barnum or something trying to trick you. "Come join the circus, the ministry of Jesus." You'll see crazy stuff. It's going to be amazing. So what did I do? What did what every preacher does. I go to all my books. If I'm going to be in debt the rest of my life, I have the books. So I go to the books, the commentaries, and I'm like flipping through. What does the fig tree mean? There is plenty of ideas, but nothing consistent. You will hear that the fig tree, from one corner of Christianity, the fig tree is a symbol of the knowledge of good and evil from Genesis 1. And so clearly Nathanael was contemplating big picture ideas, and he's an honest person. I'm like, Then you'll get, well, it's actually a symbol for the nation of Israel, and that he's truly committed. If you're sitting under the fig tree, it's his commitment to the nation and to the study of Torah. I don't find that compelling. And I could give you 3 or 4 more. None of them are very compelling. And that's what I was sitting with that. What makes the fig tree matter? And it clicks. Goes back to what the Gospel of John as a writer. The writer of the Gospel of John leaves out details that you will never know, that you can't know. One of the most famous stories of Jesus is the woman caught in adultery, and they drag her before him, and he says to the crowds, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." Let me see some head nods. You've heard that story before? The detail that usually is left out when you actually read it is he bends down and writes in the sand. And then he stands up and says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. But we're never given the detail of what he wrote in the sand. It is left for your imagination. It isn't Western storytelling. We're dealing with a Middle Eastern storytelling. Let your imagination run. The point of the story isn't cause and effect. Westerners, that's what we want. We want to know why he changed. What matters is that it mattered to him. And the fact that it mattered to him, when Jesus sees him, it changes him. That may not be Western storytelling, but that is human. Let me ask you, in your darkest moment, when you have struggled the most, when a relative passes away, when a new person in your life shows up, when you have felt in danger, what does it mean to you to be seen? When you are truly seen, could you describe that feeling? For Nathanael, what it means to be under the fig tree, it's not the detail, it's that he is seen by someone. Whether it was a dramatic moment, maybe he was struggling, maybe he was diving into Torah, maybe it was, but what matters is that before Jesus, the fact that Jesus sees him for who he is and accepts him, and in that moment still says, you're a good person. I see you coming. I have known you. I Googled, what does it mean to be seen? There's like 15 TED Talks. I didn't watch any of them. Because for me, that's to be seen. Some of it's my personality, my privilege, my presence. I know what it feels like to be seen. I also have experienced wanting to be seen and not being able to. Where you feel so alone, who could possibly understand the hurt I'm going through? I understand why people don't want to be seen. At least I can cognitively understand it. Because sometimes being seen is a matter of safety. Sometimes you don't want to be seen because you have an open wound. An open wound, like talking about, you ever been in this place? You just went through hell. You just went through some of the hardest days of your life. And you're at church and someone goes, how you doing? What was your response? Fine. Fine. Why? You're bleeding emotionally, spiritually. And you don't know if you can really share that pain with this person who's maybe just asking you, isn't it cold outside? Because exposing an open wound, you want to show that to somebody who cares, who loves, and who can really see it. Some of the protection can be for anybody who's been oppressed, for their safety, because being who you are has put you in danger. Maybe for your own physical health, career-wise, being who you really are can lead to vulnerability, and you don't know if you're allowed to be vulnerable around certain people. So I can gather why there's these struggles. And then there's also the worry as someone that they'll look away. Isn't that part of it? Have you ever shared a deep, resounding pain with someone and they just wanted to change the subject? I was just racked over a death. My mom's. was just wrecked. It was weeks. I've got like my fingers at my I'm just barely keeping social engagements around. And a friend, meaning well, how you doing? Not great. Mom died. Well, we all got problems, don't we? Yeah, this is like everything else. You're right. That builds up a desire to hold. Like, if you can't keep people's attention with pain, you're hurting. But I'm also here to tell you about the transformative power of being seen. This is what we look for in our partners in life. Let me tell you, like, I'm not the best marriage counselor out there. I took a couple of classes and certified in a couple of boards. My one thing that I'm looking for in a couple is, do you see each other? That is more profound than sharing a book or common interests. Do you truly see one another for who you are, your pains and your strengths? The transformative power as a parent or a grandparent to really allow your children or grandchildren to be themselves is the greatest gift you will ever give them. To see them and then honor that presence will set them up in ways that any financial or physical gift never could. And frankly, to truly see people around you, the practice of seeing strangers as humans fully graced and embraced by a God who loves you and loves them, that is the practice of our whole lives. That is the whole point of being a Christian, of following Jesus, is that it's not just resounded for our friends and family. It cannot be that. A Christian faith that only says love your friends and family is not one that reflects the teachings of Jesus. Jesus says move beyond your community. Move beyond the people you're comfortable with. Move into the Nazareths. Those people who you've judged because of voting habits, tattoo choices, career goals, and say, that person, I see them for who they are, and embrace that. And let God do the rest. I feel comfortable being able to teach about this because I myself have been seen. This is more than a warning to not be a Nathaniel, judging people from where they're from. This is heavy theology because I'm not great at seeing everybody. God did. God has. This God made flesh in Jesus Christ sees you just as you are, under your fig tree, wherever that is, wherever that placement is, wherever your worries or concerns, hopes, dreams, your successes, your failures, your shallow faith, your inconsistent discipleship, your fleshed out 401k or your food stamps. Wherever you are in that course of life, Jesus sees you as how God made you. There is nothing that you have done in this life that has changed God's view of you in either direction. You are graced, embraced, saved, loved, just as you are. No need to change. Full stop. You are good in God's eyes. And then, this is what Jesus says to Nathanael, and Nathanael's heart breaks open. That testimony is not given out of a sense of obligation. It's a heart breaking open. And when he sees Jesus, and Jesus is, you believe because of me seeing you. You're going to see. Yeah, what we heard, what's written in scriptures, you'll see the angels ascend and descend on the Son of Man. Poetic language, it's a reference to Jacob's ladder from the Old Testament, a whole nother thing to get into. But I'll say this, one of the patterns of metaphors I use in my prayers, and if you've been here long enough, you've heard me say, I want to, asking God to make a little bit of heaven right here on earth. Any head nods or everyone's like, oh, that's new to me. Because that's the goal. Jesus says to Nathanael, you're amazed because I see you? Just wait. You're going to see heaven on earth. It flips. Nathanael doesn't see Jesus for who he is. Jesus sees Nathanael for who he is. And because Jesus sees Nathanael, now Nathanael can see the world for the way it's going to be. That's our call, my friends. The church, our church, Spirit of Hope, the United Methodist Church, the Church Universal, is to call to see the world as it not just is, created in the image and likeness of God, but then help everyone see. How will we do that? The year is young and full of opportunity. Amen.